kids are so forgiving because they feel your love. They feel that you want the best for them. And so long as you love your kids and you're doing your best for them in whatever capacity that is, they'll always appreciate you for it.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. This is part 2 of my interview with Yvonne, who's our supply chain VA from Nairobi. So we're learning all about her culture and just everything she's going through right now with the pandemic. Crazy times we're living in. If you missed part 1, I highly recommend you go back and watch that first. The link is below. This week, Yvonne's talking all about breastfeeding. From remedies her family has used for generations to help with milk supply, all the way to her own issues with breastfeeding. She's also going to talk about what schooling is like right now in Kenya. So with the pandemic, they obviously have e-learning, they have curfews right now, so she's going to talk about how she balances it all, or tries to. So it's another really cool interview with Yvonne, so check it out. I hope you love it. So you kind of talked about struggles with breastfeeding and stuff, but I know you also talked about different remedies that I know you said your grandmother used when it came to birth. So I'd love to hear about different remedies that were special to your family and also special to your culture in Kenya.
So there's just 2 remedies that traditionally we use. One of them is porridge, and the next is bone soup. So there's a lot of bone soup going on and a lot of porridge. Traditionally, all we use, or basically what most families use, is porridge, bone soup, and also turtle beans. So those are known quote unquote to get milk production going. And it's with porridge and bone soup, it's more or less they're hot and your child gets nourishment. Porridge has a lot of water and milk, so calcium, and also bone soup also calcium. So the thought process is that the hotness of that liquid will elicit milk production, and yeah.
Wow.
And also nowadays most doctors, when they're checking you out, will tell you to take fenugreek tea, so which you can just buy regularly. And also right now, I had my daughter 10 years ago, so right now we are having lactation cookies. So it's coming on progressively. So and then at that time there were lactation specialists, so that's when they were coming up. So yeah, that was amazing. But I feel like for me, what happened was that I got into the game very late. So I didn't start taking fenugreek tea before I gave birth, which apparently helps. And then after I gave birth, because I gave birth in hospital, and it was a private hospital, and because they want mothers to recover so that when you leave, you are fresh and whatnot, my baby started taking formula before I left hospital, which is wrong. Instead, they should have been teaching me how to breastfeed. So by the time that it now became, I was going home, that's when now we were starting to do full-time It's Yvonne breastfeeding. And formula is sweeter than breast milk. They don't tell you that. But formula is sweeter than breast milk. So my baby was perpetually hungry, was perpetually like, she wasn't full. I wasn't happy. My breasts were paining. And so we went to a lactation specialist and we tried that. It wasn't working. So it got very serious. So when she went for her 2-week checkup, the doctor was like, okay, you know what we need to do? She also need to take formula as you try and work out breastfeeding. So by the time we got a rhythm going, I was already going back to work. So that then hindered her having breast milk full time. So that I would say was a downside. And yeah, I got over it, but I feel like it still hurts you when you can't feed your baby exclusively. But it's fine. But I feel like most mothers, what they don't know is that you need to start preparing early, need to start getting know what how breast milk will come. If it doesn't come, what do you do? How do you prepare for that eventuality? If it does come, then you're good. How do you ensure that even when you go back to work, your milk production does not decline?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think it's so interesting that you say that they, gave you formula right off the bat instead of kind
Mm-hmm.
of preparing you for breastfeeding, as I've heard that out here too, that they don't, a lot of times hospitals don't prepare you for that, and they don't, unless you kind of already, know to prepare for it.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then when my mom and my aunts said in retrospect was, for them it wasn't difficult, them, they lived in a different era, so for them they assumed that it would work for me, but I didn't grow up in their era, so whatever they were doing or whatever they were eating didn't work for me now. So I didn't know what to do. So it was afterwards, now that we are seeing that it's a problem, that's we're like, okay, fine, then how can we help? What do we need to do? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I think too, with like social media, how it is right now, there's so much more support and information around it. It's just, I think it's a different world right now. I think we're constantly evolving and changing. Would you say it is overall common for moms to breastfeed where you're from? Or do you think you say it's a little like half and half? If the doctors aren't really pushing it as much, do you think most moms do formula?
No, I feel like it's more of your first choice is to breastfeed. But because most moms are working moms, formula comes into play. Yeah, formula will come into play at some point. So unless you're a stay-at-home mom and you're like, you've taken some time off, you've decided I'm taking the first year off and I'm going to just do this and get my baby ready for life, then yeah, then it works for you. But when you're thinking about work, when you're thinking about, I need to go back to work, I need to find uh, a pump that works for me. Sometimes you'll find a pump and it's not necessarily the best one for you, so you move to another brand and then that also doesn't work. And by that time, you've already forked in some dollars and you're like, you know what? Yeah, let's just do formula. I'm not about this business,
Yeah.
we just need to eat, and then when I come home from work, we'll do a bonding session and I'll breastfeed. So I would say it really depends on where you are or what you are doing with your life. Yeah. I
Mhm.
wouldn't say breastfeeding is the best. We want you to breastfeed, but sometimes the doctors don't know better or the nurses don't know better, and or also you're ignorant about what you need to do to get you ready to breastfeed exclusively. But I wouldn't say it's impossible because since then I've made it I've made it my lifelong goal to help my cousins to be ready for breastfeeding,
Mhm.
and no one in my family has not been able to breastfeed or has had to resort to formula, because what I learned later on is now what I pass on. Yeah, so I wouldn't
That's
say
awesome.
that it's impossible to breastfeed when working, but
Mhm.
sometimes, I don't know, it just gets hard. Yeah,
Mhm.
it just gets hard. Yeah,
Definitely. But yeah, I love
yeah,
that you used it as then, you took it as upon yourself then to share education and help your family. So I think that's
yeah.
awesome. With everything going on, things are kind of changing. How will you, and I always put this in quotes because balance is kind of like this unreal word, you just have to
Mhm.
do the best you can. So how will you balance doing, work, school, and then life all at once? Because everything's kind of changing, as we are saying. So what are your best like tips, or what are the things you do to help yourself keep balanced?
I'd say schedules. There's nothing that works as good as scheduled. So what happens is, because I work in a different time zone than my daughter lives, so when she gets up, ensure we have breakfast together. They are not starting classes as early on as they were before, and they have like clubs for them to do, just share other ideas. So they have something like Model United Nations. So she's in that kind of a group. So between after breakfast, start classes, I do my household chores, do my life. If I need to go somewhere, I have someone come in and just stay with her. And then she does her classes, goes for a lunch break. By the time she's going for lunch break, I'm back, and then we do lunch together, and then she does her afternoon classes. But when she's doing her afternoon classes, I'm starting to work. So she does her afternoon classes and then goes to play after that. So we already have a schedule. She knows when she's going to play, I'm starting to work. So we
Oh.
switch, and then she'll just come back into the house and warm up her food because I've already cooked dinner, and then we say our good nights, and then until the next morning. So we would hang out when she's in session. We would hang out in the morning, um, before breakfast. But when she's not in session, we have the whole morning hour to hang out. So, and then when she's in session, we also hang out over the weekend. So our weekends is our us time. So that's what I can say. I ensure like I know what's going on, what's happening with her. We have a lot of support on WhatsApp for parents. So we discuss what's going on in class. Teachers will give you feedback in terms of what is she doing, how is she performing, what's her attention span like. If they're not paying attention, they'll let you know. So I'll know that, okay, this one is a difficult subject. I need to sit in with her when she's learning, or I need to get her remedial classes, just the two of us. So yeah, so more or less, I'd say for me, my work schedule is fine, but it's getting her used to online learning, because she
Mhm.
wouldn't do online learning except if it was for, I don't know, like a coding class. That
Right.
should be fine. Something once a week.
Mhm.
But now it's an everyday thing. She doesn't have friends to talk to. She doesn't have friends to play with. She misses her friends. Sometimes she doesn't understand what the teacher is saying. By the time they get back to that question, she's lost interest in it. So it's just ensuring that she keeps her attention span in class. That's the most difficult thing with
Yeah.
online learning. Yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be really difficult. I always like to end our interviews with, I call them a fun thinking question. So if you could have one billboard made today where you shared one tip with moms everywhere, what would you have it say?
You're the best. Yeah. You're the best.
Oh, I
As
like
long as
that.
you love your kid, you're the best. I find that I'll say something, I might say something harshly to my daughter and feel guilty the whole night, and go and apologize to her, and she'll tell me, "It's okay, mom. I understand. You're upset with me." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, if she was rude to me, it was different." I feel like kids are so forgiving because they feel your love. They feel that you want the best for them. And so long as you love your kids and you're doing your best for them in whatever capacity that is, they'll always appreciate you for it. So don't ever think that you should be doing this more, you should be doing that more. Yeah, maybe you should grow, but don't compare yourself to another mom, because we're all different. We all have different circumstances, different realities. So you're the best at whatever you're doing. Just continue doing your best. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I
Yeah.
like really want to like print that out and put on a billboard for someone. That's awesome. I love it. We'll put dash Yvonne. Um, Awesome. I think that was an awesome way to end the interview. Thank you for letting me interview you, Yvonne. It was so cool just like hearing about you and what's going on in your life, and just kind of the differences between like African and like the American culture, I guess. But we're in
Yeah.
some ways we're kind of going through a lot of the same things right now. So
Mhm.
it's kind of interesting to see that as well.
Yeah, I'd say the only thing that is so different from you guys and us guys is that we still do a lot of communal parenting. So when I have my nieces here or my nephews here, or just my daughter's friends, I'll still parent them the same way I'd parent my daughter. And if she was visiting anyone else, they would still parent her the way they would parent their child. So
Mhm.
we're not like, that's my child, don't do this, like don't do that. We go more or less with trust. I trust that the people that I let my daughter associate with are good people, so I know they wouldn't do anything to hurt my daughter. So we still have a lot of that. I know you guys don't have that, but more or less we're all the same. Yeah.
Love it. I
We're
love
all
it.
the same. Yeah, but
Awesome.
thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for coming. Awesome. This was an awesome interview. I can't wait to share it. All right, that was part 2 with Yvonne. I just want to say thank you so much to Yvonne to coming on the show and just sharing everything with us. It's so cool to hear about other cultures. As we keep this show going, I would love to expand it and grow it and have people from all over the world on the show. So if you're watching from another country and you're like, I would love to share my story and my culture, email me, Krista@mommyknowsbest. I would love to have you on the show. And thank you everyone for tuning in, and I will see you next week.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Mom Talks with Krista. If you're not yet subscribed, go ahead and click on the subscribe button. It should be down here somewhere. We release new episodes every single Wednesday. And if you're not following us yet, be sure to follow us at Mommy Knows Best on Instagram. And remember, if you're watching this and doubting yourself, you are a great mom. So thanks so much for watching, and we will see you next week.